I used to think that if there were problems, I was doing something wrong in my manifestation process. So sometimes I would feel like things weren't working because things weren't working out to the way I expected them to. What I am recently coming to is that there's benefit in problems. Hear me out. It's not all or none, but sometimes problems can actually send us in amazing new directions that we might not have otherwise traveled. Recently, I had to seek out help from an acupuncturist and a Chinese medicine doctor. And this is because I had a problem with my health, just a minor one. But if I didn't stay on top of it, then it could turn major. And all of my interventions and strategies for healing myself were not really working. So I leaned into it and decided to seek help. And what a delight. What I found is that I met this amazing soul who was incredibly gifted and shared their wisdom and were extremely effective at not only acupuncture, but sound healing, using vibration of sound to target certain organs and energetic pathways. And I was struck by this idea that had I never had a problem, I never would have met them. And at the conclusion of our appointment, I was so happy to pay them because the payment represented this gratitude and honoring for all of their years of studying, for their master level training, and for opening their gift to the world. And I wonder if they had never had any clients that had problems, would they be sharing their gift today? Probably not, right? And so when we think about our collective and we think about the way that people like to support themselves, I find that it's helpful to remember that not everybody wants a factory job. Not everybody wants to be at a cubicle at a company where they feel like just a number or an average Joe. And there are many healers and shamans and other esoteric artists out there that need our support, that need a place in the world. And although, on one hand, it is troublesome that we need problems in order to spend, and that raises the question of what are we really collectively creating? We're creating a world of problems that need to be solved. And the only way to make a viable income is by solving a pain point for people. I believe that we can shift the collective into more appreciation, but to do that, we would need to demonstrate appreciation for artists. And historically, we haven't always been great. Of course, there are always curators and collectors and connoisseurs and patrons. But for the most part, a lot of people don't really care about craftsmanship anymore. And they tend to prefer the cheapest, most plasticky thing that will fill the function that they need. And these are not the people that would go to an art museum necessarily and spend thousands of dollars on a work of art, thereby supporting the artist and exchanging material wealth for the preservation and appreciation of a craft that is only meant to be looked at as they're passing in the hallway. And over time, they might not even lovingly gaze at it even more, but it will serve as this beautiful adornment in the structure of the dwelling that they are creating. And it will hold an energy, vibrancy, and frequency to it that when you look at the whole, when you enter into the space, it will contribute, even if it isn't being admired actively on a day-to-day basis. But people who are not in a place where they can spend like that have a different relationship with objects and have a different relationship with art. And as a result, they're not in a position to be able to curate, to collect, to appreciate when there's not enough food on the table. Nobody's thinking about art. And when we collectively are struggling, this means that the appreciation for people's gifts goes down because people are moved into a survival mode. And as a result, this has a dampening effect on the creation energies of our world, because if you can't get by doing what you love, then you might as well do something that you can get paid for. And when there's no room to get paid for doing what you love, then understandably, we suffer as a whole. And we create the only viable paths to supporting oneself, solving problems, and not just any problems, but problems that people care enough about that they're willing to actually pay somebody else to have them solved. So this means that the problem has to be a really serious problem or a nuisance. And as a result, we clip our wings, creatively speaking, because we don't open up avenues to support those who are channeling their gifts, who are being in service to the collective by creating energy infused into material form, which holds a vibration and a frequency and holds the space, but may not hold a specific function like solving a problem. This is why I like to support esoteric artists, practitioners, even when my problems aren't that major. Because when people are sharing their esoteric gifts and their wisdom, and I am acknowledging that with appreciation and helping them sustain themselves, it is as though I am helping to co-create a world where more of that exists. And what I found is that in a world that is predominantly reductionist and materialistic, there's not as much reverence for the esoteric practitioners. This is changing, of course, as we are upgrading our society. We need to actually fix our educational systems in order to create more avenues and roads that will assist people in becoming esoteric practitioners. And there are indeed trade schools and programs and things of that nature, less so in the mainstream and some of the bigger universities, where it is completely reasonable to charge somebody almost $100,000 to get a degree that cannot be applied out in the real world. And this is what we're seeing now, this crumbling of some of these institutional vampiric practices. What I think would be helpful is creating programs in mainstream institutions that create more validity around some of these esoteric practices, even if it's just exploratory. Like philosophy of religion is an exploratory concept. You can explore the other side. You can explore other cultures' takes on the energy body and how that might be affected in certain Western worlds versus Eastern worlds. That could be a dissertation in of itself, but I digress. So what we find is the problems actually benefit us at this stage of our development because it allows those who have gifts to be seen, to be honored, and to be cherished. But why is it that whenever we think about our power as creators, we try to eliminate all of the problems? Eliminating all of the jobs for other people, all of the services, all of the products. We are, in effect, writing them out of existence. Are we sending those people to be impoverished? Imagine that all of us collectively, but individually, in our own home, in our own manifestation practices, manifested that there would be no more difficulty for ourselves, no more problems, no more nuisances or headaches. There would be no more service providers. What would we do? Literally, what would we do? And we would make art. Okay, but then how would we sustain ourselves? Well, artists get paid. Do they now? I remember reaching out to a musician group a while back. I really appreciated them because they were spiritual, and I had a service to propose to them. And they wrote back and said, "Don't you know we're musicians? We're broke." And I thought, how is that possible to see such talent and to have so much activity on the streaming services? How is that possible? And it's so common that those who are trying to become artists often can't do it at all and feed themselves and live the life that they want to live. And yet, as powerful manifestors, we are supposed to do what we love. How do we fix this? In a world where people predominantly get paid if you're solving problems. Music does pay if you have shows and merchandise and tours and have a break, if you can make it on the algorithms, and there are those who do. But those are a tiny few relative to the many who never get seen, never get discovered, and who don't really have any streams or support. And I used to think that it was easy. All you had to do was email radio stations, tell them, I've got a new release. And if they liked it, especially if you emailed a certain DJ, if you liked their show, then they would play it. And it turns out it doesn't work that way. That even that is gate kept. We live in a society that is eroding those gatekeepers, which is opening up many, many, many possibilities. But I have actually heard from a couple of listeners on my channel struggling to survive making music. And I listened to their work, and some of it was incredible. But it's like a little tiny drop in the bucket. And so when we live in a consumerist world where we don't want to pay for apps, we don't even want to pay for movies anymore, we don't necessarily want to pay for streaming services unless we have to. And even then, there are people that try to still get around that. We don't want to pay people for their books. We want to try to find their free PDFs. And some people, I know of somebody that signed up for a course learning about cryptocurrency. And there was a money back guarantee. And this person rushed through all of the modules before that window closed so they could get a refund. And this is somebody on the consciousness expansion journey, completely oblivious to the impact to that creator. Because when we live in a consumerist, consumptionist society, we want, and we want, and we take, and we take, and we don't want to pay because we're not thinking of the people as creators who spent decades sometimes learning skills to bring to you the valuable creation that you'd rather try to find a workaround instead of give to that creator. Income. We don't tend to see it like that until a certain level of awakening. And I remember following Aubrey Marcus for a minute. And on his Instagram page, they launched a product in collaboration with a company that was creating essential oils. And these oils were very lovingly created with magic infused into them, fair wages, high quality products. And I was stunned to see the litany of comments criticizing Aubrey and them for the high price. It felt insulting to the creators of this who put so much into it. And when we have magical products that are lovingly crafted, craftsman level products with the best ingredients, and as somebody who makes my own perfume with essential oils, I understand how hard it is to find quality oils. It's actually very, very challenging. But aside from that, people should be able to make what they want to make when there's so much effort that goes behind it, when it is art. It is like looking at a painting and criticizing an artist for being thousands of dollars when the supplies themselves are maybe only a couple of hundred, if that. And there's something about our consumerism, consumptionism mentality. Not everybody falls prey to this, of course, but that we don't think about the people behind it and the energy and the art that was infused into it. And this is what I believe locks us into only being able to serve a world with solving problems, which at some level is actually sad if you think about it.